the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and of course, all the conversation is going to be about Jose Martinez worldie of a goal. I mean, of course, Jose Martinez's first goal was going to be that goal, wasn't it? And what a chaotic game we had with after Jose Martinez scoring in the 90th minute. You have Orlando going down, hitting the crossbar, and then the Union, a minute and a half later, they have a chance with Mikel Ua hitting the crossbar. Both teams could have won this game in the end. But I think a point apiece is well deserving for both teams. And yeah, I mean, things could have been all sad and all on Union Twitter last night if the Union would have lost that game to Orlando City 2-0. But that's not what happened. The Union found a way to fight back. And that's a credit to the resiliency of this team. And how many times last year did we talk about that? How many times have we talked about the Union being in second place in MLS for most come from behind victories when they can see the first goal in the game? And that's a credit to Jim Curtin and his coaching staff and for the belief that these players have in each other. Where Jim Curtin, we might get angry when Jim Curtin doesn't make his substitutions when we want him to, when, it looks like he's leaving his players out there too long. But to his credit, he's allowing those players to stay out there and to work through the issue. All right, you guys are down. You guys got yourself in this hole. Go and fix it. Go correct it. And that's exactly what we saw last night against Orlando City. And we've seen it multiple times throughout this season, and we've seen it last year as well. And for all the Union fans that were down there in Orlando, you guys saw a heck of a game. And again, I've got to mention just the Union traveling away fans. The support on the road's been fantastic this season. You guys have heard me talk about it in Colorado. You guys heard me talk about it at Red Bull Arena. You guys have heard stories from people on social media about their experiences going to away Union games this season. Union fans are traveling well this season. And I think that's something that's underrated, where these fans are playing their part, helping the Union get results on the road. Of course, the players are the ones getting the goals, fighting for the points on the road. But don't you think they hear there's away fans pushing them on? Because I know certainly they heard there's away fans in Colorado. I know for sure in Red Bull Arena, they heard all the Union fans. And when I go down to DC in August, they're going to hear all you traveling Union fans down there as well. And so, bravo for all of you guys that are traveling to see the Union on the road. And if you haven't done that, definitely take advantage of doing that, because it's an experience unlike anything other. And you guys are going to get hooked. If you go out for your very first game, you guys are going to get hooked, especially if you see crazy games like we saw last night in Orlando. And so, because this is a midweek game, we're not going to go over news. We're not going over blunder of the week. We may or may not go over goal breakdowns, because I really, really want to push you guys checking out the YouTube videos. And because of that, we may not do goal breakdowns anymore on the podcast. Maybe we should, but I've got a ton of great feedback from you guys on those YouTube videos. And a lot of you guys continue to comment on the videos, subscribing to the YouTube channel. Again, if you guys haven't yet, youtube.com/freekickpod. Going to continue to plug that. Over 50 subscribers now. Next goal is 100. Can we get there by August? I do believe we can. Continue to just spread the word. And you guys that are doing both, listening to the podcast, checking out those videos, I appreciate you guys a ton. And because of that, I don't know if we should continue to do the goal breakdowns so we can grow the YouTube channel. But maybe we do. We'll see how much time we have left in this podcast. But let's just get straight into talking about this game. As we all know, that game ended 2-2. And as I said in the intro, this is going to be the game that's remembered as the Jose Martinez golazo, a worldie of a goal. And I don't want to take anything away from that at all. But before we get into the positives and the happiness that fans expressed on social media in the stadium after that final whistle, I do want to focus on the negatives because I feel like some of those are going to get lost in the Jose Martinez moment. And at first, I want to start with the corners and the crosses from the Union last night. And let's be honest, the set piece deliveries from Kai Wagner, they weren't good at all. And Kai Wagner has called this team out for not being great at set pieces this season. And he does have a point. The Union have not been good all season long on set pieces. But some of that blame has to fall on Kai as well because of his deliveries. The Union had 7 corners last night, and they averaged 4.6 a game, and only one corner connected with the Union player, and that was the Jack Elliott miss in the 63rd minute. And that's extremely poor when you only connect on 14% of your corners, when you have more corners than you normally have in a game, and you don't take advantage of that. Orlando City are susceptible of giving up goals off of the corner. We saw it last year, right? In Orlando. And the Union don't take advantage of that at all. And that's really disappointing when Jim Curtin has said it. You guys have seen how much Frank Leist has meant to this team with quick restarts, whether it be throw-ins, whether it be free kicks, whether it be corner kicks. He has made a difference with this team. And Jim Curtin says all the time, small margins can lead to victory. And when you have 7 corners and you only connect on one of them, that's piss poor. And some of it was good defending by Orlando, for sure. Don't want to discredit that at all. But then part of it too is it just wasn't good deliveries into the box. And we've seen a few times this season when Kai Wagner's corner doesn't beat the first man or it's a free kick like we saw last night. It doesn't even make its way towards a Union player. It doesn't beat the first defender. And that's not good enough. That's not good enough when a team's giving you 7 corners or they're giving you the opportunity to cross the ball 30 times, which, by the way, only 5 out of 30 crosses completed last night, which is also, again, piss poor. And that's also higher than their season average cross attempts per game, which is 18. So you're only completing 14% of your corners and only 16% of your crosses. That's not good. It's not good enough. It has to be better. When Orlando City is giving you that many opportunities to cross the ball into the box, to score off of a set piece, off of a corner. We know the Union have the height. And you only have one player, one a header? It's not good enough. You only have 5 crosses completed all night long? It's not good. And I think this probably would have got brought up more on social media if it wasn't for Jose Martinez scoring that goal. And it's not even just last night that the Union were poor in crossing and corners. They've been poor majority of the season. It's just careless giveaways when you can't hit your targets. And for a team that has been so dominant last season on set pieces, again, not discrediting anything at all, what Frank Leist has done with this team, he's not to blame. This team last season was so dominant on set pieces, especially headers. They're now last in MLS with only 1 headed goal scored all season. Only 3 set pieces scored all year, which is towards the bottom half of MLS. And I absolutely refuse to blame Frank Lice for that. He's coming up with good plans. We saw it was a clever set piece in the first half where Kai Wagner, I believe it was a free kick, and he plays the ball at the top of the box to Jack McGlynn, and the shot gets blocked. That was a clever set piece, but it gets blocked. And we need to see more of that. More of those quick little short passes where, all right, nobody wants to guard Jack McGlynn. We're going to play this ball quickly into you. Hit that first time. And all right, the shot got blocked. But at least that shot attempt was attempted. At least you connect it with a player, unlike some of those poor crosses we saw last night, those poor corner kicks. And so that's something I'm going to be paying attention to in the second half of the season. Can the Union capitalize on more crosses, on more set pieces? Kai Wagner only has 1 assist all season long, which is unheard of, where he was the leading assist man last year for the Union, only 1 assist through 18 games. It's not been great offensively from Kai if you're just looking at assists. And part of that is too, right? The Union aren't capitalizing. I said that, right? They're not executing the plans. They're getting out jumped on corners. And again, that's a credit to the opposition defending set pieces well. But sometimes those deliveries have not been good from Kai. And again, I think that's something that should have been brought up last night. That's something I think if the Union would have lost, I think fans probably would have brought that up. Another thing that I thought was negative on the night, and I don't know if any of you guys have noticed this, but it seems like we're getting a lot of last-ditch tackles by the center backs this season. And most notably, it seems to be coming from Jack Elliott. And we have the center backs attempting these tackles when it doesn't seem necessary at all. What's the point of these last-ditch tackles when you have defenders behind you? When the attackers aren't anywhere close to being inside the 18-yard box? And I have no stats to back up that point, but this is something that I've observed more times than not this season. And I'm curious, have any of you guys also noticed that? Whether it be at home or away, it just seems like there's needless last-minute tackles. And I can't really think of any of those kind of tackles the last couple of years. And again, no stats to back that up. That's just what my eyes seem to be seeing. And maybe I'm over exaggerating. Maybe it doesn't happen as often as I think it does, but last night there was a couple of those chances, most notably Jack Elliott, like I mentioned. And it's a habit that he and the other center backs need to break out of. Always going for those last-ditch tackles. At times, they are necessary. When it's just you and another player and you're lunging in for the ball to try to slow him down to win that ball back, okay, that's necessary. But when you have the player in front of you, when all you have to do is just contain him, just keep him in front of you. Be aware that a player like Ojeda wants to keep the ball on his left. Don't let him cut inside the left. Force him to the right. And I'm talking about the second goal that Orlando scored with Ojeda. It was poor defending there by Jack Elliott and Kai Wagner. And I'll show you guys what I'm talking about in the goal breakdowns. But just contain. Be aware. And I know it's a lot easier said than done, right? Because if it was as easy as I'm making it out to be, then I'd be a professional soccer player, right? But you've got to imagine that this is something that Jim Curtin is telling the center backs, as we all know, he was a center back during his playing career. Just contain the attacker. Don't lunge into a tackle. Don't force a tackle. Just keep him in front of you. And we've seen it too many times, I feel like, this season. Damian Lowe's been guilty of it as well. And there's been moments where the Union lose the ball. And now it's chaotic defending. Players out of position. Now you start seeing those wild tackles. And that's not what you want to see. You want to stay nice and compact. You don't want to panic. And it just seems like there's been too many moments this season where it's just careless tackles. And you look last night against Orlando, Jack Elliott was 0 for 1 in tackles, and Jacob Glesnes was 1 for 2. And that first goal that was scored by Orlando, Glesnes, he's a little bit unlucky that ball came off of him and landed back to Maguire, so I can't totally fault him. But the second goal, 100%, is on Jack Elliott and Kai Wagner. You knew he was going to cut on his left, and you allow him to keep drifting left to hit that shot off. It's a beautiful shot. Joe Bendik, could he have done better? Possibly. He's probably getting shielded a little bit by the defenders in front of him, so he sees the ball late. That's why he reacts late. And maybe if Andre Blake's in goal, he's going to save that. But don't give the attackers time and space to turn and pass. Contain them. Keep them in front of you. Be right up on the attacker. And again, maybe this is something that gets talked about a little bit more last night on social media if the Union lose to Orlando. But that doesn't happen. And that's why I'm bringing it up on the podcast, because I don't want these moments to get overlooked. And I'm not trying to sound negative, right? I know I'm bringing up all the negative points, but I think these are valid concerns. I think these are questions that need to be asked. And this is something that Union fans need to be aware of. Was it a perfect game by the Union last night? Absolutely not. There was a ton of mistakes. And last night, the Union could have easily have lost 2 straight games. And now fans are back to panicking. Oh, great. Andre Blake's not back until after the New York City game, July 15th, because of the Gold Cup. We're probably going to lose every single game with Joe Bendik in the goal. That's what fans are 100% thinking if we would have lost that game. I did see some fans last night complaining about Joe Bendik, saying, oh, he's not a good goalkeeper. And he's a good backup. He's a good person to have in the locker room. The third goal that was ruled out because of a foul leading up to it for Orlando, Joe Bendik was slow. He was slow to react to that, just like he was slow to react to the second goal that Orlando scored. But like I said, I'm not totally going to blame him because he had a lot of traffic in front of him, so I'm sure he saw that ball late. But the reaction time on that third goal that Orlando had disallowed, I don't know what Joe Bendik was doing there. And you guys can see that play if you didn't watch it last night in the goal highlights on MLS's page on YouTube. They show that play. But, the Union, none of this gets brought up because Jose Martinez scores that goal. And that's that's good, right? It distracts you from the negatives. And the last thing I want to bring up, and this is something I brought up 2 years ago on the podcast, and every time that I brought this up on a show, I had some people DMing me, people telling me at games, people texting me saying, why do you always bring this up? Like, this is pretty annoying that you always mention that the Union always give up a goal in the first 15 minutes. Because I did. I constantly brought it up 2 years ago, if you guys are new to the podcast. And what am I going to do again? I'm going to continue to bring it up because it is an issue. And just like 2 years ago, I didn't shut up about it until it wasn't an issue. Last season, it wasn't an issue at all. It was the complete opposite. Instead of conceding in the first 15 minutes, the Union are actually scoring in the first 15 minutes. And we've seen now 18 games. The Union have conceded first in 10 of them. And when they do that, they're 3-2-5. But that's never going to be a recipe for success. And to their credit, this is a resilient team. I said it earlier. I said it a whole bunch last season. The Union are able to get a result in 50% of those matches where they concede first. And that's tied for the best in MLS with Atlanta and Charlotte. And so, yes, it is an issue that they concede first in 10 out of 18 games. They're tied with Charlotte for the most goals given up in the first 15 minutes of matches, which is 5. But this team doesn't die. They have a fight in them. Okay, fine. We go down 2 goals. You see the joke in soccer all the time. A 2-goal lead's the worst lead in all of soccer. And it's proven time and time again this season. Chicago, Orlando, that those teams thought they were cruising. Were 1, 2, 3 points. And here comes the Union scoring 2 goals to get a point in both of those games. And Jim Curtin was asked last night about conceding in the first 15 minutes of games. And this is what Jim had to say.
Well, there's always something to every 15-minute block. I call it. I say it to these guys, and they probably hate hearing it, but I say the games are won 15-minute increments, 15-minute blocks, and the first 15 for me is always critical. And I agree with you, have in the past in the history of the team over the last several years been pretty good starters and good finishers. So that first 15 and last 15, we've done a good job. Of course, you're going to concede some goals at different moments for sure. But overall, you're right. We've given up too many early goals. Look, sometimes it's unlucky, but when it happens, as much as it's happened this year, it's not how we're built to play, right? We play so much better with a lead because now teams have to open up and come at us, and we can get in and hit them on transition. So we're not built to play from behind, although we did it tonight. But you're right; it's not a habit I want to become the norm, and it's something that we need to do better with.
Yeah, and I remember playing in high school, and right before the games were going to start, our head coach constantly drilled us and said, yeah, the first 10, 15 minutes, they're so important every single game. That's where this game's won and lost. In those first 10, 15 minutes, how you react is going to set the tone for the rest of the game. And we were annoyed as players, and Jim's right. The Union, the players are probably annoyed hearing that every 15 minutes. That's where games are won and lost. They're probably annoyed hearing that, but it is true. And again, to the Union's credit, they find ways somehow. They find ways to come back and either get a point or 3 points. I don't know how they do it other than there's a strong belief in this group, in each other, that until that whistle is blown, they still have a chance. And maybe this gets corrected like it did 2 years ago. And maybe it's not as big of a deal as it would be if all those goals they're conceding first result in losses. I think maybe then it gets talked about a lot more than what I talk about here on this podcast, or some people I've seen mention it on social media, not a ton. But in my opinion, it is an issue. But those are the 3 negatives I wanted to point out from last night's game. If we want to go ahead and flip it and look at the positives, you see the Union creating chances, with Steinhardt coming up with some huge saves last night. The most notable probably on Julian Carranza in the 51st minute, who was out wide left, plays a great driven cross into the box. One of the few crosses that found their targets on the night came from Mikel Ua. Torres lets the ball go, and it finds Carranza. Carranza does well to control the ball at his feet, and then Steinhardt does a good job coming off his line quickly, closing down the ball, making himself bigger. and comes up with a huge save. And is it a concern that Julian Carranza's had a couple big chances here the last 2 games? A couple chances in San Jose, doesn't find the back of the net. Great goalkeeping by Daniel. We talked about that last episode. Great goalkeeping last night by Stadahar. But, the best strikers in the world find a way to put the ball in the back of the net. And as much praise as we've given Julian Carranza the last couple episodes, as people have talked about on social media, he's missed some big chances. Is that a concern? Maybe for some people. But Jim Curtin, he said after the game that the most impressive thing about Julian Carranza, and scouts say this all the time, is his pressing, his work off the ball. And I do think that that's partially true because you don't see strikers work as hard off the ball as Julian Carranza does. But as we all know, strikers are judged off of the goals that they score and they don't score. And 3 huge chances the last 2 games for Julian Carranza, and he can't find the back of the net. But again, Stadahar deserves credit for how he played last night. 3 huge saves. Glesnes, he looked like he was the best playmaker at times for the Union. Played a great ball over the top in the first half to Julian Carranza. Can't get a shot off from that chance. Great ball over the top to Mikael Uhre in the 48th minute. Again, can't get a shot off. But you go and look towards the end of the game, right after Jose Martinez scores a goal, Orlando City have a chance to go ahead and make the game 3-2. Hits a crossbar. And then Nate Harriel comes in. Great cross by him. Uhre's chance hits the crossbar in stoppage time. And I do, real quick, want to talk about Nate Harriel, where, okay, he didn't start this game, but his limited amount of minutes he played against Orlando last night, he looked great offensively. And this is something I've noticed the last couple games that Nate's played. His offensive abilities, he's looking more and more comfortable in the attack. And whether that be with Ali Bedoya, and I know Bedoya hasn't played in a month, and maybe it's not been the last couple games. Maybe it's been all season that Nate's got better and better as times went on offensively. Because he seems to be building a good partnership with Bedoya. When the Union were playing 3 in the back and they're playing with those wing backs, he seems to be building a good partnership with everybody on the right side, whether that be Jose Martinez pushing up, whether that be Julian Carranza, whether that be Daniel Gazdag. Nate's looking more and more comfortable in the attack, and I think, well, I don't think, I know. I've said it so many times on the podcast. We all know Nate's a defend-first defender. And you don't see that in the modern fullback. It's always attack first, then defend second. And Nate's the complete opposite. But now the more comfortable he gets in the attack, now you have a complete fullback. And you hear the rumors about Bizo potentially leaving, potentially getting sold. And we'll talk about that next episode about the reporting that Tom Berger did in The Athletic about 5 Union players that could potentially get sold either this window or in the coming windows. And Olivier Bizo was one of those players listed. And you feel comfortable playing Nate Harriel when Bizo's not out there because he's getting more and more comfortable in that attacking role. This team can rely on him defensively. But now if you can add the offense that Bizo has to Nate's game, this is a complete fullback. And those kind of players are so rare to have. And you have one in Kai Wagner where his offense sticks out more than his defense. But this season, we've seen his defense go another level. And if you have 2 fullbacks that attack and defend just as well, that's going to take this team extremely far, in my opinion. And like I said, you just can never count this team out. 50% of their games where they can see the first goal, they're getting a result. And that's a credit to Jim Curtin and his coaching staff, like I said, and I'm still going to drill that into you guys. Like, they deserve the credit for instilling that belief in these players, that never say never attitude. And we complain about this team not having a game changer off the bench. And long are the days of Jim Curtin relying on El Senior to come in and help the Union get a result. But more times than not, Jim Curtin is leaving that starting 11 out there and saying, hey, you guys got yourself in this hole, and I know I'm repeating myself. You guys go and fix it. And yes, we all want the Union to add a backup striker, a backup number 10. That's going to be key for this team if they want to go far in the playoffs, if they want to lift MLS Cup. That's going to be key. But it also talks about just the grit from this team, being given that chance. All right, we got ourselves in this hole. Let's dig ourselves out. And we've seen it a lot here in the last couple of weeks. And that's something that should make you proud. But because I really want to push you guys to check out the YouTube video, we won't do goal breakdown. If that's something you guys want, if you guys want me to continue to do the goal breakdown segment on the podcast, but not doing it as extensive as I do in the YouTube videos, let me know, because I'm going to give you guys the content that you want. So again, if you guys want the goal breakdown segment still in the podcast, let me know on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, find all that stuff at Free Kick Pod. You guys can email me, DM me on those social medias, email me. There's a ton of ways for you guys to get in contact with me. And I love getting your guys' thoughts, your guys' opinions, and what you guys want me to do better at. And before we get to 3 stars, I guess, right, we probably should talk about Jose Martinez's goal. And here I am trying to not talk about that goal, because we talked about everything else when I guarantee you everybody else that's recording podcasts are talking about that goal first. But not us. We're not doing that. We're going to end the podcast before we get into 3 stars talking about Jose Martinez's goal. But maybe we shouldn't hear from me first. We should hear from Jim Curtin and what him and the players thought after that goal.
Well, everyone's incredibly happy for him because, again, he has good technique when he shoots. He actually strikes a very clean ball. That's as pure as you can strike it. Somebody said Ronaldinho and Roberto Carlos were in the building, so that had Roberto Carlos, vibes. Not quite the tail on it, but So yeah, look, again, you have to shoot to score. Are there times in the games where we say no? Yes, that is the case. But this was you could hear the whole bench like no as the ball bounced to him. But then when he hit it as clean as he did, everybody was ecstatic for him. Great player, great person, and does so much defensively to score a goal like that. It was really memorable.
Yeah, I mean, how many times are you in Subaru Park saying no, don't shoot Jose, and we see the ball go completely over the crossbar, the ball go over the tunnel of the river end, the ball going in the parking lot. How many times are we seeing that? Too many to count. And finally, when shot 96, Jose Martinez gets his first Union goal. And well done, Jose. He could not have hit that ball any better. And I'm sorry for all the people that were texting me last night wanting to talk about that goal, and I'm not responding back to them because as soon as that game ended, I hopped on an Inter Miami podcast called Batter Herons, and I was on that podcast back in March, I believe it was, with Daniel and Chris. And we had a ton of fun on that podcast talking about Messi, which I feel like most of the podcast was probably talked about Messi than it was previewing Saturday's game. But full disclosure, And you guys probably know this by now, with it being a midweek game with Orlando and then a game on Saturday, we're going to have no Inter Miami preview episode from myself. So if you guys are looking for a preview episode for this weekend's game, you guys can check out the Battered Herons podcast, and I'll leave a link in the description. It's definitely a longer podcast than what this podcast is for you guys. So if you guys like these long formats, definitely check out that episode. A lot of fun just talking about Club America, talking about Messi, talking about Damian Lowe, talking about goalkeeping, and these guys bring it every single week. And so really, really grateful that they invited me on the podcast. And I was like, can we please talk at 9:30? They wanted to record at 9, which they typically do. They're like, yeah, we can talk right after the Union game. And then a ton of people start texting me, wanting my thoughts on what we just witnessed. And I didn't get back to anybody because we didn't finish the podcast until 11 o'clock, and then we didn't finish talking after the show until like 11:45. So I didn't get a chance to really respond back to anybody last night. And that goal by Jose Martinez, I'm still stunned. So I started texting everybody back this morning and still not really fully accepting of what we saw last night. I don't know how you hit a soccer ball that well. And you heard Jim Curtin say he has really good technique, but more times than not, the shot's just skying, going up, 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 up. But that ball, Roberto Carlo-esque, which is pretty cool that him and Ronaldinho were both in the building last night. And, you know, neither one of them knew who Jose Martinez was last night until that goal. Now they're going to know who Jose Martinez is because of that goal. Hopefully they stayed until the end of the game and got to see a worldie of a goal from Jose Martinez. But yeah, it's funny hearing Jim Curtin, the players on the bench, no. And you guys saw the video from Mikel Uhr, his reaction. He's completely stunned. What did he just witness? Jose Martinez hit that ball and it wound up in the back of the net. And I think we all have the same reaction as Mikel Uhr did. But yeah, a crazy goal by Jose Martinez last night. And it was always going to be that type of goal by Jose Martinez. It was always going to be that goal, right? I mean, he has tried so many times shooting outside of the 18-yard box. Been close a couple times. But that is the best that he has struck the ball. And no goalkeeper in the world is saving that. And I saw on Twitter this afternoon that Jose Martinez was winning the goal of the week votes by 75%. Of course, that's going to win goal of the week. Or sorry, goal of the match day. Let me get it right. Goal of the match day. And that is going to be a contender for goal of the year. And I know the goal we saw over the weekend by Real Salt Lake's Pablo Ruiz, Lucas Zelarayan, the week before that against Chicago Fire. Both goals over 50 yards, chipping the goalkeeper. They're going to be contenders. One of those are probably going to win goal of the season, I'm going to say right now. But Jose Martinez has to be in the conversation. You can't teach that. If Jose Martinez try that same exact shot again, he's not going to pull it off again. 100% not pulling that off. And you'd love to see it from Jose Martinez. But now we're getting into 3 stars. We'll start from 3 to 1. Because I feel like every time I start from 1 to 3, you guys don't really care. So let's go from 3 to 1. Starting with Jack McGlynn. 1 goal, 46 out of 51 passes completed. That's good for 91% of those passes being completed. We go ahead and look, 7 passes into the final third. 7 out of 8 long balls completed, 1 interception, 5 ball recoveries. And it's about time Jack McGlynn gets a goal this season. He's been close. He was close before the goal that he scored. off of the set piece got blocked. Great service in by Kai. Great hit by Jack McGlynn. Shot gets blocked. And this is a goal that probably shouldn't have been a goal. It's great placement by Jack McGlynn, placing the ball where Mikhail Uhre should have been. Nobody gets ahead to this ball, and Stadahar doesn't react because he expects Mikhail Uhre to either hit this or one of his defenders to clear it, and nobody gets ahead to it. And it bounces and finds its way in the back of the net. Great game by Jack McGlynn. Great to have him back in the starting 11, contributing offensively. Definitely have missed his passing ability. But a player that gets berated on social media is Leon Flock. He completed every single pass last night. 24 out of 24 passes completed. 1 assist, 2 chances created. 1 out of 2 crosses complete. Hey, look, there's another player that created a cross and got it completed. 4 passes in the final third. Leon Flock was excellent last night. Didn't do anything defensively. Didn't have any tackles won. No ball recoveries. No interceptions. But his positioning all night long was terrific. And offensively, Leon never gets credit for what he does offensively. And I told you guys, beginning of the season, the stats back it up, that each year he's getting slightly better offensively. And it happened. Happened last night. Great game offensively by Leon Flock. And then number 1, Jose Martinez. Of course, it had to be Jose. 1 goal, 48 out of 55 passes completed, 87%. 9 passes into the final third. 3 out of 4 tackles won. 1 block, 2 interceptions, 9 ball recoveries, 10 out of 13 ground duels won, and 4 fouls won. No, that wasn't 4 fouls by Jose Martinez. There was 4 fouls won by Jose Martinez. I mean, how many times can you say, what? Jose Martinez isn't the one fouling? He's the one picking up fouls? Man, I didn't expect Jose Martinez to draw that many fouls and for him to keep his cool, to not get a yellow card. Well done, Jose. And even if Jose Martinez didn't score that golazo, he was still going to be the star of the night for the Union just because of how tough he worked defensively. And he works hard for the Union every single game. But when you score a goal like that, of course, you're going to get into team of the match day. You're going to be the best player on the field. And I don't know, maybe this is the start of things to come for goal scoring wise by Jose Martinez. We shall see. Probably not. But if Jose Martinez scores a goal like that in Subaru Park, that place is going to go nuts. Now, I guess that's the one thing that does hurt a little bit, that he scored this type of goal not at Subaru Park, because if he would have, I guarantee you, the press box would have went nuts. Everybody around the stadium would have went crazy. That might have been one of the loudest moments ever in the stadium if we all would have been there to witness that Jose Martinez goal. But we weren't. Hopefully Jose Martinez treats us to a goal like that at home some point this season. But that is it for the podcast. Again, no preview episode. Check out the Battered Herons podcast, link in the description, if you guys want to check out a preview for this Saturday's game. As always, if you guys want to check out the social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, @FreeKickPod, youtube.com/FreeKickPod for the goal breakdowns, and wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. This Saturday, my plan is to go around the stadium, interview fans, talk about that goal. If you guys want to talk about Jose's goal, we definitely can. If you guys want to talk about other things, we definitely can do that too. But it's also supposed to be thunderstorms this Saturday. So if that happens, we're obviously not going to do interviews. And I do feel bad. We've only done one interview all season long with fans. And of course, it's with people that I know. So I got to step out of my comfort zone, reach out to people that I don't know, and spread the word about the podcast. Make them feel important, that somebody's coming up to them with a microphone, wants to talk to them about the Union. And so that's the plan. We'll see if it happens this weekend. And if it does happen, we'll include that audio in Sunday's podcast that will be released on Monday. But until then, My name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.